Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? I got to tell you that this has become the highlight of my week. I can't sleep the night before. I wake up early in the morning because I'm so jazzed, and then I'm on this like euphoric high for a couple days afterwards. These conversations are blowing my mind and thrilling me beyond belief. I hope that you guys even feel a quarter or a fraction of what I'm feeling because I absolutely love this. And you being a part of it enables it. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for your support and continuing to watch. Tonight is another a passion for me, the purity and patriarchy. So we're going to get into our guests shortly, but I wanted to go ahead and do the regular housekeeping. Um, I might not have even said so. I am Reverend Dr. Sherry Palace, and you are watching Fireside Creators. If you have a question, please use the hashtag ask so I can be sure to alert any of our guests, and also tag them if you want to have them specifically answer. We do have a full panel tonight. In fact, I kind of broke my own rules of saying, okay, we're going to limit this, but the panel was so powerful and such an expertise that I had to have everyone on. It may run, I always say this, it may run a little long because we've got a lot to say, but I'm going to go ahead and start introducing the panel. We are missing two, but hopefully they will show up soon and be able to come on and join us. The first person we have is Noelle Toscano. She is the director of, and she told me how to pronounce this backstage, and I'm already forgetting. Ezer Rising, a ministry that is committed to elevating the voices of women and equality in the church. Welcome, Noelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for joining us. Next, we have, hopefully this works. Yay! Tracy Bird Dickerson, whose default is hospitality. She is just like an overall angel, and you can see everything on the screen as far as how she is. So I'm not going to let her her wonderfulness keep us any further. Hello, Tracy. How are you?
Hi. How are you, Sherry?
I am well. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming on. I will open the panel up as if the other ones arrive. We have some opening comments. Normally, I have a bunch of questions. Hi, Tim. Oh, one of the things I forgot to say, if you are not registered with StreamYard, I will not know who you are. So I will see things like this. If you are registered with StreamYard, I will see your name. So go ahead and register real quick. If you're in Fireside Creators, then the link is there. Otherwise, you can remain anonymous or just come on in. So, ladies, we are here to discuss the purity culture and the patriarchy. And I was married under the purity culture. It was before it was called the purity culture. But I actually got a call one day at work. We had talked about marriage, but we were both very young. I was 18, he was 21, and we had talked about marriage, but then I got pregnant. So we decided to nix it until afterwards, figure things out later. And then one day at work, I got a call from my mom who informed me that I was getting married. And the only thing that I needed to do was to show up with my shoes. She was going to handle everything. And it was going to be in her front yard because we only had 3 weeks. So I went and got my shoes, but because I was 5.5 months pregnant, by the time the wedding came around in a month, they didn't fit. So I was literally walking down the aisle, barefoot, pregnant in my mother's front yard. So it's, it perpetuates this. We separated after a little less than 2 years, but I have just recently found out that we were never divorced. We have actually been married. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he actually married his third wife because of the purity culture also. So the irony is that there's this massive loophole where I am the one who was actually married till death do us part, and she is the one that is not real happy, obviously fighting it, and the adulteress, but was trying to be in line with this purity culture. So you have all of these loopholes, and I'm thinking, when Vince got to heaven, did God say, "Congratulations on sticking to your vows"? And he said, "Which ones?" And it would have been me. Is this the greatest marriage ever because he lived on a separate coast than me? He had 4 other children. He was married 2 more times. I mean, now we know that none of them are legal, but I mean, this is like the ultimate loophole, right? And especially mind blowing for me, to say the least. Both in unison, yeah.
Speechless, and you can follow that.
Sorry, but yeah, it's been a little, and this show is totally coincidentally on that. So this is all like, okay, how is this working? And I want to say, Vince, we did it. We made it. There's too many loopholes in such bullshit laws, basically.
Yeah. Was there a shotgun at the wedding that you were barefoot
No, well, that's a whole nother subject, because not only was I barefoot pregnant and walking in my mom's front yard, he was black. And my dad was a raging racist. So that's a whole different story on top of it. But yeah, that's why I was forced to get married. We loved each other. I mean, that was never, and he was my dearest friend until the day he passed. But purity culture ruined both of our lives, because he thought as soon as we got married, I was his property. And I had to do whatever he was told. And if I said no, then I was saying no to God. So it was all of this perpetuation of submission and dominance that was God driven, and I had to obey. I didn't know for years that it was called rape.
Yeah. I think about like how, like, just in patriarchy, there's all these sort of rules and structures that are set up that are for the purpose of keeping men in positions of power over women, and this was really kind of no different, because even when you think about, like, what does it mean to be pure? Well, you're trying to define how God sees somebody. That's what's happening. This whole idea and concept of purity culture is based off of that. How do we tell her who she's supposed to be in God's eyes, as though we men are God?
Yeah.
And it's, so it could be manipulated, it could be twisted. They set up all these nice, neat rules for it, and this is what it looks like, and how can we? And ultimately, I felt like, as a child, I was definitely raised with all of that. My dad was a pastor, a Baptist pastor. My mom got pregnant with us out of wedlock. I'm a twin when I say us. So
Okay.
sorry, Mom, 19, pregnant, never saw that guy again. And now she's got 2 little daughters. And I felt like everything that she did was to try to prevent me from getting pregnant. But she couldn't just say that. She couldn't say, like, this, I'm glad you guys are here, but this robbed me of a lot of opportunities, and I want to make sure that you have those opportunities. It had to be spiritualized and twisted and turned around and said that it was fear-based. I want you to be absolutely petrified that God won't think that you're worth anything anymore, and that you won't have a husband who thinks that you're worth anything someday. So when I lost my virginity at 19, I thought I had to marry that guy. And he was a jerk. And he was the kind of jerk that actually was such a jerk that after we slept together a couple times, he broke up with me for a friend of mine. I almost was willing to tie my life to a person like that, simply because I felt like I had to. That's what God wanted from me. And so people got to stop speaking for God. Okay. God
Exactly.
is not out there telling you that you're pure if you do this and you're pure if you, I mean, the Old Testament said that if you weaved clothing together or like thread together, that was like impure,
Yeah.
and
Showers were bad.
everything, like there's like, but that was God. That's God's way of setting things aside and apart. And we're viewing it now through the lens of the people who wrote it and thought that these rules were in place for a reason. And that's okay. That's fine. I'm glad it was documented, but we need to look at it through the lens of like reasonability and say, what do we do with this now?
Yeah.
Who are we now in God's eyes? Are we fearfully and wonderfully made? Are we meant to have a sexual side of us that is enjoyed? And none of that was taught to that entire generation. And
Oh no,
now
my first makeout session with some guy, I was kept asking if he loved me. And he's looking at me. I was gonna say, "Do you love me?" Because that made it okay, right?
Mhm.
I had this guilt on me, and all of that. It was, you have to do this. But there's so many other implications. Tracy, let me let you let in. I got an LOL for that one.
Yeah, I had so many thoughts as you all were talking, and kind of segueing off of some of the things that Noelle said when she talked about what the purity laws were meant to be in Leviticus and the other books of the Bible that laid those out for the Hebrew culture. I'm a contextual theologian among being an artsy-fartsy celebrant of life, but it always. I always want to be drawn back to the main question, and the main question is, what is the gospel? And then the second part of that is, what is the gospel for this person? What is the good news? So how do we pull out of all this crap that we're calling the purity culture? Which I did some informal polling of some private groups I was in, and I just asked,
Okay.
were you in purity culture? If you were, how did it form or malform your life? And boy, woo, we had some nice conversations. I had 2 threads that kind of blew up. They were great.
Oh
But
wow.
one person referred to it as the purity gospel. And of course, they were saying it sarcastically. But that really hit me hard because I had never heard it referred to that. And I realized that it is being promoted as a false gospel. It's not good news to anyone for them to be told that they can't listen to their body, they can't trust their feelings, that they are inherently sinful. I know, let's just step away from inherently sinful. I don't even want to go there. But for women to be told that they and of themselves can create sinfulness, cause lust unwittingly, are the perpetuators of, basically, we are the Eve with the apple and we are the Lilith with the snake wrapped around our leg.
Yeah.
You've ever seen that picture of Lilith, who was the first wife of Adam?
Yes.
In the Midrash.
Love Lilith.
So that's not good news. How can that be good news? And it's not good news to be told that you're not the owner of your own will, that you're just a child, that they purity culture perpetuates this childlike image for men. Men have the female gaze. What they want to see is a woman that keeps her mouth shut. She's quiet. She's pure, she's demure, she doesn't argue.
That's why I failed.
She wears right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's not going to work for me.
There's nice clothes that don't tempt in any way. And all those things, if you think about it, those are all things that children are quiet, best seen and not heard. Children are not supposed to arouse your sexuality. Children don't dress provocatively. They dress cutely. Children show up, and when we all get dressed up for Easter, the whole family is our little parade that we parade about, and they're objects. So for the woman of the household to be that very same thing, just a larger version of that, we're making children out of women. That's what purity culture does. That's not good news. So,
No.
as a theologian, I say, what is the good news for women? What is it? And it's not purity culture.
I actually published a piece yesterday that, of course, has gotten a lot of hits. It was titled "I Love Sex," and the subtitle was "And the church ladies gasp and clutch their pearls, and the church elders scream whore." And it was all about the difference between domination and sex. I mean, people think that rape is a form of sex, and it's not. I mean, that rape is a tax. Rape, abuse is a tax. Sex is consensual. I mean, and just that belief that way to mix those two things makes it even grosser. It doesn't, to be able to have those things. And I haven't been called whore yet, because hopefully they read it to say, look, this is crap. But it's like I said, it's like God turning into a total sadist and giving us a toy and the best thing in the world and saying, I'll burn you in hell if you ever use it. It's it drives me crazy. But then when I learned about the goddess, I realized that it was happening prior. I mean, when they got rid of the goddess in the Western, the Judaism and through Zoroastrianism before that, there was a goddess for 3,000 years, longer than we've had Jesus. God had a wife. So in the demolition of the goddess and making it two men in the sky, or one man in the sky for a while, and then, two men in the sky, and the lady's a spirit, it took all of our power away then too.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, I think that the intent has always been to figure out how to control women.
Yeah.
And the fear of what if we can't, what if, and so it's very reactive. And I think that, I don't think there's men out there who want to be married to somebody who doesn't enjoy sex. But I think that they have a sense of like, well, this is who she kind of needs to be until then we're in the bedroom, and then we want her to be somebody different. And so all of us girls, grew up thinking that it was bad of us. It was an impure thought to fantasize, or to think about another person, to think about our own bodies in a sexual way. And so, I mean, we're very good at compartmentalizing. And so we went ahead and just put the kibosh on any kind of sex drive that could have been developed. And then we got married thinking that you could flick a light switch on and it just would be there. And the husbands were like, but it was like so taboo to talk about it. And the wives thought they were broken. And the husbands thought the wives were broken. And now we're looking back and going, this whole system was broken, that we taught people that they were, chewed up gum or leaf or petals from roses that were plucked, or, all these things, cups of spit. If you have
the cow with the milk was the analogy I got. There were all cows who were selling milk.
All you are is just
the
cow or the milk. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're the cow.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dehumanizing, and it takes away.
Yeah.
And so now I think that more and more women are speaking out because we recognize that something was taken from us and we want it back. And we're, it's a generation that's not afraid to ask, not afraid to talk about it, not afraid to educate it enough, have enough information to go back in time and delve into where did this thing break in the first place? And this is where it is. It broke in purity culture, which it was an entire culture.
So,
but it's not anything new either. No. I mean, we have, like I said, we can go back to the goddess, and I mean, it says in Genesis that, they were made in our image, and that our image is so often forgotten and diminished and all of those things. And when you have a God as a male figure, then that's all that matters. So if you have a male God in the sky and a male being, then the male on earth is, like you guys said, God. And for me, because I was pushed into marriage, there was no commitment. And divorce wasn't a bad thing. Separation wasn't a bad thing. And especially for the reasons that we got separated. I mean, he got hooked on drugs, and it was something that I couldn't handle. But I wasn't taught to how to be in that marriage, how to, handle those things that marriage incurs. I was only taught that I had to do it. And that I had to, be submissive, and I had to do this. And I don't think for a second that my now husband thought that he was abusing me. If anything, I was being defiant by saying I wasn't obeying God. I wasn't doing these types of things. He would have laughed and said, my God, I would never hurt you that way. But that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think that you make a good point with that. And Noelle talked about how purity culture damages women, but I would also, from the polling I did, the ethnography that I did, I'm going to say it hurts men too.
Yeah.
So the very patriarchy that the system is built to hold the system up.
Yeah.
And all the players in the system don't even know that they're being used as players to build the system up. And they're also being damaged by the system just as much as the women who are being damaged. And we see that played out. Your husband, Sherry, was struggling to control you, and he wasn't succeeding. What he didn't understand was he could have had some fulfillment and probably a great deal of joy if he had just done something differently, but he wasn't ever taught to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part about smashing the patriarchy and dismantling the patriarchy that becomes very tricky. And, Audre Lorde said it very clearly, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools.
No.
And the question is, and if we've been asking this question for decades since she even wrote that phrase, how do we do that? How do you gently dismantle such a structure that's been around for thousands of years? It's a deep question. I don't have the answer to it. I wish I did.
Well, especially when they tell us to be silent and we don't have a role in the church or leadership or anything like that. Right. So that aids in it. Yeah. I wanted to put this up from Beth because Beth, I was told something very similar. I was told that women give sex to get love and men give love to get sex. I was also told that men are dogs. If you chase them, they will run. If you run, they will chase them. So, I mean, all of the connotations and everything, the name calling and all of that still brings, I mean, if the man is submissive to God and we are submissive to them, it's all just this big slave trade or master thing, right? I mean, we're all imprisoned in this because when my husband would demand something of me, and I didn't comply, then that made him, emasculated him and think that he wasn't doing the right. I mean, it's just this vicious circle that hurts everyone. Mm-hmm. And it's all over power, control, greed, and all of that. There's nothing wrong with sex. Abuse is what's wrong. Cheating, greed, lying to obtain those things. Mm-hmm. But as long as we stay quiet and submissive, the church is okay. So
what does it do to a boy who's raised hearing that he needs to be respected, but he doesn't need to be loved? And my
Wow. Yeah.
My answer to that is I raised two boys. They are men. I am so proud of them. 27, 30. And I raised them as a single mother for 8 of those years. I believe that they deserve to be both loved and respected. Good. And believe that they also know how to respect a woman well and how to love a woman well. Mom taught them that. So, good. I mean, is the answer to dismantling patriarchy to raise boys well, one boy at a time? Part of it, I think. But
that was my vow.
Yeah.
That was my vow.
I mean, I can't even imagine how much damage you do to training a boy that you don't need to be loved. You only need to be respected. And then, surprise, surprise, I'm unfulfilled throughout my entire life. And the more respect I demand, and I keep demanding the respect, because I know if I just get the respect, I'll be whole, right? I'll be whole. And it never happens. And I continue to be an empty, unfulfilled person because that respect that I know that if I get it, I'll be whole, I never get. So it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Well, and I think it leads to a lot of the abuse that Sherry, had talked about, just how, they think they have to force their way into this to get that that respect by bullying or by harassing or whatever it is. Just sort of have, it's like the guy who's afraid to feel his feelings and the one who's afraid to pet a puppy and the man who's afraid to be sweet in public, like he wants all those things. That's a part of his wholeness that he's neglecting it. and it's probably driving him like a little bit insane.
Right.
So I think, I'm raising 4 sons. So I'm watching Tracy's example, trying to do my best, and I just, you think about it, there's this clashing, I think, between the genders right now, where women are speaking up and saying, look, this is happening. And the men are saying, I don't see it that way. I don't really see the problem or the issue. Very few men kind of have their finger on the pulse of why this hurts women and are listening enough to care, to learn more, and to speak against it to the other guys in their worlds, because that's the only people they're going to listen to. Guys are going to listen to the guys for the most part, because they've been taught that women are overly emotional, ridiculous, and have maybe evil intent. So, your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you. I was always taught that your desire will be to control your husband.
Keep him in line.
That is not in the Bible.
No.
It's not. It's been twisted to fuel a fear that men now have of allowing a woman to have influence over him. And so that chasm between men and women just gets bigger and bigger, and women are becoming more and more vocal, and men are becoming more and more offended by that. So, like Tracy had said, how do we rebuild this structure that is so broken? I mean, I don't know. Do we by just raising a whole new crop of men?
It might be.
I can only speak for myself, and I will say that my husband was raised by his mother. My mother-in-law was widowed when my husband was 2, and he was the youngest of 6 boys. Oh, wow. She raised 6 boys. So Noelle, my boys and your boys together, my mother and my husband treats me as an equal. Now, he wasn't raised in evangelicalism and in purity culture either. So I think that was helpful to a point. But I really do think that being raised by his mother was a huge piece to it. So I give her many, many mad props. I'm very grateful to her for raising such a great, great guy. I was joking with Sherry before we came on. I couldn't get on the computer, and I said the patriarchy's helping me. I feel like I need to repent, but
it's so perfect.
My brother in every way.
It was so perfect.
And I can say that he's my second husband. My first husband was a boy I met in youth group, and it was a different relationship. It was not the same. And we did ascribe to I think we were more in Sherry's camp. I think we were pre-purity culture, like purity culture when it hit the second version in the 90s. I was in the 80s.
Exactly. Me too.
We were the beta version, weren't we?
Yeah.
Sure. We tried it, and then I guess it moved on to the more.
They put a ring on it.
Really, they put a ring on it. They put a ring on it, and they had some problems for it. And then I kind of watched that while I was raising my kids, thinking, nope. So.
Oh, my mom disowned her friends over sex. Because if they were living in sin, then she couldn't associate herself with
them. I've seen that. I've probably had people disown me for that too. So
when I was talking, I spent the evening with my husband it's so weird to say husband again, right before he died. And we were talking about all of these things. And I said to him, isn't a vow to God more important than fornication? And you go and you make this vow to God for a wedding, and then all of a sudden you're breaking it. In every one of the cases of his marriages, it was just months later because of this. But the vows don't matter. But I also wonder if that's where all of the insecurity that we're seeing across the spectrum with men right now. If they're not getting that respect that we are told that they deserve, that they are told they deserve, that and it is empty. If we are supposed to respect them just because they exist, then that could perpetuate across the society and really be seen as what we are seeing right now. Would you agree? Is there any truth to that?
I think so. I think they're taught that women don't need respect. Women just need love. Yeah. So they can go ahead and hold her under financial hostage, or insist that the house be a certain way, or, you know, do all these things that like, or even like hit her, and then come at her later and go, but I love you so much. Look how passionate I am. And here's the laundry list of all the ways that I love you. And, you know, and she can look at that and say, wait a minute, you know, this is also how you've treated me. But she'll see that as a lack of submission. If she uses her voice in that, she's not being submissive. So there's this, I don't understand how they can teach in complementarianism that they're equal in value and different in role. That is bullshit. It's just it just is, you know. You can't say that like he has all the opportunities, he has all the control, he has all the power, he makes the final decisions, and he's a good husband, so he weighs in with her before he does this. That's equality. No, it's not. You know, and it fuels how then the children are raised, and the girls are taught certain things and the boys are taught certain things, and then he goes out there and he exploits. And because I'm just a firm believer that almost nobody in positions of power for any length of time cannot abuse that power in some way, shape, or form unless there's a system of checks and balances in place. You have to have equal partners. You have to have diversity, different people from different experiences, and you have to have both people loving each other and respecting each other at the same time.
I agree. A partnership.
Mm-hmm. And Sherry, going back to your point, the checks and balance system is, if you're coming from a Christian perspective, which I am, so is the third person in the marriage is God.
Which is really creepy, by the way.
Well, no.
It really is.
He's not like David Ford's cartoon where he's like sitting there looking over the edge of the bed while you're having sex. Have you ever seen that cartoon? No. But there is that level of accountability where you're learning from the divine how to be divine. You're learning what true love is in a marriage. You're learning what commitment is. You're learning what it is to walk with a person, to meet them where they are and to walk with them through the absolute shit of life, because most of life ends up really being difficult. I mean, let's face it, there's tremendous joys peppered all the way through life, but slogging in between the shit to get through the tremendous joys, you need more than just one person. And two is better than one, and three is better than two. But the point is true love. If you're entering a marriage to find out what true love is, purity culture teaches us, well, true love waits. Well, first of all, that's what true love is. Really? That's how you're going to sum it up? No, true love sits in the midst of really difficult stuff, and true love sits. True love is patient through unimaginable difficulty. True love puts up with you when you lose both breasts to cancer. True love shows up. It doesn't wait. It shows up.
But if you're in a dominion or dominating and submissive situation, there's no love there. There can't be.
No.
There can't be, because that's not equality is
not the mutuality that you see in the Trinity, because Trinity is mutually submissive to each part of itself, and if you don't see that mutuality in a marriage, then you're not modeling the life of the divine. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is you're modeling some other thing. And you'll even hear, and I'm sure Noelle's heard this because she hangs out in a lot of the egalitarians and complementarians, but more than I do, because I just get tired of it. But you'll hear people, really get into the Trinitarian stuff and say, no, well, and actually the Trinity, they don't all mutually submit to one another. Oh my goodness gracious, me, oh my, and it starts getting crazy. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that mutual submission, the marriage is going to suffer. In any relationship, if you can't speak your mind.
I think it's vulnerability more than submission.
Yes. Yeah.
Because when
when it's mutual, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for relanguaging that for anyone who might think I'm.
Yeah, because when you're in a submission, there has to be someone that is dominating, right? I mean, because otherwise it would be equal, it would be compassion, it would be what else would it be? You know, a relinquishing of power. But
Empathy.
at least as far as I think, if there's a
Yeah.
submission, there has to be some power there, and there's that power struggle again that we go through, and which stems the power of the patriarchy.
Well, I guess the word would be then
Ooh, I like this.
mutual kenosis.
Oh,
There you go. So
okay.
empower rather than power over. Yes, power for versus
Yes.
power over. Exactly, Beth. Good one.
And Kirsten has another one.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wrote about that when I wrote an article about good old John MacArthur and his wanting power and how he said women wanted power. And we were like, we don't want the same kind of power you're talking about, because he is talking about power over and we're talking about power with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the incarnation teaches us power with. It never teaches us that God is power over.
Well, and it's all in interpretation, right? Because again, if we have a single male figure in the sky, then that kind of, feeds it with any type of domination. And if you look at it as an equality thing, as an equity thing, then the patriarchy kind of folds. So you have to believe that power in order to further the patriarchy.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And can we all say in unison, it's bullshit? It's bullshit. And my marriage of 29 years kind of shows the loopholes,
Mm-hmm.
The fact that, his third wife is crumbling to pieces right now because, her world has collapsed and mine is, it's all just, none of this would have happened had he not been instructed this way. And he said to me as I was teaching him these things, he said, my God, Sherry, how do you know this? And I said, because I've read more than one book. Yeah. And he never did. He never looked elsewhere. He never looked beyond the church. Any problem he had, he went to exactly what was feeding these problems, and perpetuating them, which led to drug use, which led to, multiple marriages. All of those things just destroyed him. But I can also hear him laughing right now, going, I have a few choice words for him too. But, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. That's why we're not supposed to follow laws of man, right? But the laws of love.
Mm-hmm.
There. Yeah.
Yes, I talk about this in, I want to have a show about this too, Beth, because they did strip all sexuality. From the priests, the popes, Jesus, all of that. And you can't be human unless you are, but that's a different show. Let's talk about back to the purity now, because that is a whole different thing. Other than raising the boys, I mean, what can we do as a community? Is there something that we can do, like they're marching in the streets over police brutality. They're marching out of the pews of the churches because of these types of things. With these women, I mean, the three of us are taking stands to try and stop this. Mm-hmm. What could the community out there do for us to help enable us and empower us to try and spread this equity further?
Well, I think just, I think you have to do a lot of personal internal work and for me, it's about looking back and going, what happened to me in my life? How did my upbringing fuel, dysfunction in me? And then my husband growing up with being taught the same thing, and then having different levels of dysfunction. And now we're trying to be together on it. And to do that emotional work, that emotional labor of thinking about it, reading about it, praying about it, talking about it to each other, and getting to the bottom of it. Do not put it under the rug and then stick a coffee table on it and pretend it's not there. And I think as each one of us goes ahead and we do that emotional work ourselves, we become more emboldened to share our stories with other people. And the more we share our stories with other people, like when Tracy and I get together, I swear it's like there's this Holy Spirit, like fire raining down on both of us when we're talking. It's like very dynamic. We have to put a time on it because we'll just stay there all day. And I think that when you do that with other people, I know, I want you there too. It's very empowering, and things start to become clear, and then you take it, and wherever God walks your feet to the next person to have that divine conversation, the more that the word gets spread out. So I would say whoever's listening and learning from this conversation, let it marinate a little bit. Maybe think about it. Maybe ask some questions. Maybe talk to a good friend, a spouse, a sister, whoever it is, and bring these conversations to the forefront so they don't get buried. And just like you said, keep doing research, keep reading, keep looking, keep finding clarity with it. Because I don't think that the people who put together purity culture meant to do harm. I really don't. Deep down, I think there was fear-based, and they were trying to control us. But the crux of it, I felt like, was they tried to make us want to sanctify ourselves, make us want to be holy vessels. But they just did it the wrong way. And
well, like you said, power corrupts.
Yeah.
So, they might have wanted to delineate roles, but then, the power got in there and messed everything up.
That's how it always is. And I think, just real quick, I think that as we become powerful people in our lives, if, I was very unexpectedly promoted to the director of Aza Rising, and out of nowhere. And so it was the kind of thing, and Tracy's in management, and you do what you do. We have to look at it and go, okay, people, they mess this up. They always do in some way, shape, or form, and people get hurt. And I think we have to be able to say, I'm sorry that I did that. I wish I could go back in time and change it had I known how it was going to impact you. And I feel like that's like such a big lesson for me now, looking at it, going, as a parent, I want to be able to always be humble enough to say that to my kids. I always want to be humble enough to say it if I mess up, and hurt somebody who crosses my path. And it would be so nice if the people who had taught purity culture would say that to us, because it would be such healing to, like Joshua Harris. That poor guy, I feel so bad for him. He's the one who wrote I Kiss Dating Goodbye and Boy Meets Girl. And he said he's not even Christian anymore.
Yeah.
He's divorced. Dude never dated. Like, go out and date, teenagers. Go make friends with a lot of different people. Go figure out what you like and what annoys the crap out of you. Like, that's our responsibility when we're growing up, to do all these things.
Yeah, exactly. And I, as I said before, it was so many people telling me that they felt like purity culture had stunted their developmental growth, that it had infantilized them, how it infantilizes women, but it also stunts people's moral, spiritual, ethical, sexual growth on a developmental scale. And I say that being a registered nurse, and my degree is in spirituality and health. So when we talk about, we've been telling boys from the moment they were, as high as this, that what you really need is respect, but what they really need is love. It's like saying what you really need is a cookie, but what they really needed was broccoli. And they've been trying to get the cookie. They want the cookie. And how come the women won't give us the cookie? And they're so mean. And unless we control them, we can't get the cookie. If we control them, we can get the cookie. And we need to be able to say to them, guys, you know what? You actually need the broccoli. You need the broccoli. We want to give you the love. We're not saying we don't want to give you the respect, but like the two come hand in hand. Like, I'll love you when I respect you, and I'll respect you when I love you, and you'll love me and respect me, blah, 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 blah. So the message is to, going back to Noelle, is to sit at the table and have these conversations, these deep conversations, or to do things like this online where there are men listening. Guys, we don't want to take the cookie away from you. We want to give you the cookie, but with the broccoli. After you've had the broccoli, you can have the cookie. You get to have everything. In the kingdom of God, everybody gets to have everything. That's the beauty of it. That's how the curse gets broken. That's how you guys all can stop looking at us as the bad Eve who ate the apple and ruined everything. We want to see creation restored. We want to see Eden restored. We want to just love and be loved. We want to create and watch other people create. We don't want the power over anything. We want the power to break the curse.
I think that so many guys would be amazed how much cookies they would get if they gave some broccoli to some ladies. Sorry.
Well, see, the problem is they were getting all the cookies they wanted for so long just because they had the rolling pin.
Exactly.
And they had the power over financial, and that's why they're so afraid of feminism, right? Because as soon as we gained our independence, we no longer had to put up with their control and all of that. And so all of a sudden they're like, okay, what do you mean just because I have this rolling pin that I'm not going to get these cookies anymore? And we say, no, you don't deserve them. That is not what has happened in our societies for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I'm giving them some things to, catch up. Come on. But also it's time. It's definitely time.
Mm-hmm.
And forgive me, I'm having a massive allergy.
If you just tuned in right now, this is not a baking show.
I know.
I
think everybody gets our analogies.
I was about to say the cookies that they've been getting are like sugar-free, dairy-free, and with no chocolate chips in it. That's the cookies they have been given. But we've got the good cookies.
Yeah, I think everybody got our analogy. Because they have a rolling pin, yes. But it is an instruction thing. It is a learning thing. We had a show last couple weeks ago on deconstruction, and part of that is breaking down those misnomers, those lies, those fake credits that they get just for existing. I mean, granted, we're all special. We all are, because we exist. But existing doesn't automatically mean respect or owing anything or being submissive to.
Mm-hmm.
Smash the patriarchy.
I have a T-shirt that says that. I almost wore it tonight, but then
you should have. You should have. Yeah.
I think this battle is so difficult because just even saying, like, a big part of what we do with A's Are Rising is, trying to smash patriarchy, but we're viewed as being like anti-men. We're all married, in good marriages. We respect and love our spouses. Like it's to view it that way is such a, it means they're not listening. It means they're.
Maybe they don't want to.
Probably repeat the second part of the message. Since we said patriarchy is bullshit, we all said that together. We should also probably say we love men too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
We're not.
I'm having an LGBTQIA show. Actually, Sarah Cunningham's going to be on. It's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. But I am proof that sexuality isn't a choice. I still love men. I mean, I love men. But I will not be abused. I will not be subjugated. I will not. I mean, I want a partner. I will not ever be in a submissive situation again, unless it's called for. But
what?
Unless it's called for. But it's as a role or in my life, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I want to own my sexuality as much as they have gotten to own theirs, without being called a whore, without being called a Jezebel, without being accused of being a prey. Preying on men in order to make them weak. We're either weak or we're strong, like you were saying earlier. We're either the destruction of men, or it's. I mean, we're the root of all evil at this point.
Yeah, you're either a man eater or a man eater. There's no in between.
Yeah. Yeah. We're so vicious, but yet so weak. How do we cope?
It's all that broccoli.
We're never going to look at broccoli the same way again. Okay, did I miss any questions? Does everybody scrolling through? I'll show some of these for our YouTubers in case they don't get to see it. Yeah, I mean it's acceptance. Love is respect, right? You can't love someone if you don't respect them. The two go hand. You can lust, you can do all of those types of things, but I'm not a fan of Paul. In fact, there was a discussion on my Facebook page today about Paul, but I think that Corinthians 13 is flawless, you know, and we can learn a lot from those types of things, and that really states what love is, and it's not that's not purity, and that's not the patriarchy in any way.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Yeah.
Any questions out there? There's lots of chats. We have hundreds of comments here, so I might be missing some. I'm afraid to even show this. I don't even know who this is. If sexuality was environmental, Sherry would be the most lesbianish lesbian. The fact she still loves men is proof. I don't even know who that is, but okay.
Well, can we love people without wanting to
Most definitely.
That's my point.
Most definitely. I mean, I could spend the rest of my life with my best friends and be completely happy. Not necessarily fulfilled, but completely happy. When the church gets in, it crawls into bed with us is where the things go wrong, right? And that whole thing with God being involved really creeps me out. It does. I don't. It's like we paint this picture of a God and we're watching porn all day long.
Yeah, it is. It's a little strange to imagine that God is watching porn all day, every day, all over the world.
Animals, insects, you know, us. It's just, I don't get the thinking. Only the patriarchy.
It's like white noise, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like God's flipping the channel. Oh, they're not doing it right.
He's also watching like molecules break apart and come together and form water and stuff. It's probably more interesting. It's probably much more interesting to watch chemical things.
I don't know. I think that God thinks people are really interesting, you know, and I think that as interesting as it is, probably me making a grilled cheese sandwich today, and I spilled a big glass of water. It went all over the counter. I said a few choice words. My son was within the earshot. I'm sure the Lord thought that was really funny. Like, you know, I don't know. So having God as this sort of, you know, we feel like God's being maybe a voyeur, but I think that God just wants to be involved in every bit of, you know, our lives, and to know that we're not ashamed to have God there in those. I think that's us figuring out how to have a relationship with God, is saying, God, you see it all, you still love me. You saw that, you still love me. Probably thought it was funny. You saw me have that experience, you know, with my husband, and you're happy for me. You're happy for him. You made this, you made us, you put us together. So I think because we don't let people into those places and spaces, it's difficult. But I think, you know, going back to one more thing, I just wanted to make sure that I said, I think that the crux of the purity culture problem is that it creates a soil of inequality that is disrespectful for both boys and girls, men and women, and it leads to a lot of self-hatred. So I think that the girls are thinking they're causing the sin. They're afraid to feel the feelings. Their body is the source of the sin. And the boys are becoming addicted to pornography and masturbating and feeling intense, horrible self-loathing because of it. And they can't tell anybody about it. So there's no discussion happening, and all that is being just put in there, where the guy is not having much respect for the girl. She doesn't have much respect for herself. She doesn't have much respect for him because she thinks he's basically an animal, and she can't be alone with him, and she's got to be careful what she wears and what she says, and all these things. And so, like, kind of pulling up all of that junk, all the yucky plants that have been growing in that awful soil. That's like the hard work that we have to do right now. That's what we're doing with this conversation. And then hopefully, the next generation growing up will have a better chance. And the men and women in their lives will look at this and go, yes, this is actually a problem for me. I never really identified the source of, but now that I found the source, I can work on the solution.
Yeah. And as we create spaces like I did in the couple of groups that I was in, where I asked the question, asking the question is the thing that opens up space for people to say, I never knew. I thought I was the only one, and I thought I was alone. Holy cow, you experienced that same thing, or you experienced that similar thing. Really creates, as I was saying, the chemistry, where we put those molecules together, and the Big Bang Theory can happen when people start talking about their experiences and sharing them and realizing that there's healing that needs to happen, and that they're not alone, and that there are people willing to listen and walk them through the healing, and that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it creates such obtainable expectations, that no one will ever live up to, because we're human, because we're sexual creatures. So because we don't live up to it, it's constant shame on top of it. And it just snowballs and just keeps snowballing. And then we get sexual issues and, infidelities and lying and all of these things that make sex bad. And it just perpetuates that narrative even further. And when none of that's necessary, it's beautiful. If it's not done in coercion or, it's the bonobos, monkeys solve problems that way. There's an argument. They're going off into the corner and they're having sex and solving their problems. I'm not saying that we should do that.
Getting work done at work, very difficult.
Oh, it's perfect, Tracy.
Purchase.
Productivity would plummet. Social media might plummet though too. Either way, but to demonize it is just so bad, and it started with Lilith, and the goddess and all of those types of things. Oh God, between laughing and an allergy attack, I'm a mess. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. We're going to move over to the VIP lounge for all of those who want to do, but I want to give Noelle and Tracy a final minute or so to give some final thoughts and tell everybody where they can find you guys. Noelle, go first.
Well, you can find me. I'm on Facebook. Just Noelle Toscano is my name. Feel free to friend me and say that you can message me and tell me where you heard me. Otherwise, I'll think you're a troll. I get like 40 of those a day. And then you can also find us on Ezer Rising, EZER, is on Facebook right now. Our website is down. And I really appreciate, the opportunity to come and talk about this. It's something I've been dealing with in my own life, and because I'm raising kids and because of just where so many people are at, in their lives. It's something a lot of people are talking about. So I think it's time to fix this broken structure. I think that there's enough hands on deck right now that we can really do it.
I am so honored that you came on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You can find me on Twitter at Tracy Dickerson and on Facebook at Tracy Bird Dickerson. And again, like Noelle said, we do both get a lot of weirdos. Usually I won't accept a friend request unless we have a couple friends in common, more like 100 friends in common. But just let me know where you know me from, and I'll probably.
You guys don't bite.
Yeah, and the final thing I wanted to say is to give Sherry an idea for the next for another conversation. Especially, I don't want to let this talk go by without paying homage to what happened today in the world, where we had three guilties, and to talk about the intersection between patriarchy and racism, and how that insecurity and that desire for respect can make people put their knee on someone's neck for far too long. And but if we don't deal with that, and if we don't raise our boys better, and if we don't raise our friends better, we don't look at the little boy that is our good friend who's 42 and say, we all got to do better, because I'm just sick of it. I think we're all sick of it.
But
So,
he's guilty.
but yeah, he's guilty.
I'm getting emotional just thinking of it. He's guilty.
Yeah, I kind of I got in my car today at the parking lot at work, and they said the verdict is in, and I sat in the car waiting for them to read through it, and I was numb, pretty darn numb, but I'm glad we heard that. But it's a huge conversation because it doesn't end there, and these things are layered upon each other in ways that we need to pull them apart. We need to deconstruct it all, and we need to build something better.
Yep. My first show was on racism. I came out with, coming out strong. So it's a conversation that's definitely, as well as this one, not going to be a single conversation.
Yeah.
Noelle, did you have something to say? No. Well, thanks, ladies, so absolutely much. I am so honored to have had this conversation with you guys. And hopefully you're going to be in the VIP, right? We're switching over to the VIP. Okay, great. So I'm going to say goodbye to you here, do some closing words, and then I'll see you guys over in the VIP.
Okay.
Thank you. What another great show, right? Oh, I love these conversations, even if I do get a bit emotional. Okay, we are going to hop over to the VIP. If you are not a member yet, you can join for as little as $3 a month. And go backstage with us, get on camera if you'd like, talk to the guests, go deeper into the conversations. We have a couple supporters I would like to show and thank. Let me see, there we go. These people rock, right? And they keep me going and keep the tech going and support and all of those things. So for just $3 a month, you can join the VIP, or for $5, you can bring a friend, and there's all kinds of really cool stuff. All you have to do is go to sherrypalace.com and then hit the support key. If you want to get in tonight, you can actually go do it, and you will immediately be sent an email that will give you the link to the room. David, I know you asked that question of how you get in. Just go over to the VIP lounge. You have the link. You're in the group. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and for joining in on the conversation, and your support and your feedback, and all of you. Thank you so much. I will see you guys next week, which I don't even know at this point what we're going to be talking about, but I will announce it in the morning sometime. Thanks, you guys. I am going to say goodbye and jump on over to the VIP. Hope to see you there. Bye.